There are a lot of opinions that the Rookie fans have that almost everyone can agree with. But what about the opinions that are a little more unpopular? Today, I wanted to go into the depths of the Rookie community and find some hot takes and give my opinion on them. Feel free to follow along and give your opinions to these in the comments below. I don't think this show needs to last that much longer. Another season or two seems just right. I don't think The Rookie needs to be one of those legacy shows like Grey's Anatomy. I'm sure this one's gonna rile people up, including myself. I love this show very much, and I feel like despite the amount of sharks that have been jumped or the amount of criticism I may have for the show, it doesn't mean that I want it to end. I personally think that this show is formatted perfectly for a legacy show, with a revolving door of cast members. As OG characters like Nolan, Gray, and Tim retire, they can have mid-series casts rank up and take their place, like with Selena or Aaron if he were to come back. Then they introduce more rookies every season or every other season. I don't personally see the show ending until at least season 10. But likely, I think it'll make it to season 12 at least, and make it to the level of Big Bang Theory or Shameless in the amount of seasons they have. I liked Lucy and Tim when they weren't partners, just platonic. Funnily enough, there is a reply to this that embodies my opinion perfectly. Baby, they were never platonic. Lucy has had feelings for a very long time, and Tim developed them probably after saving Lucy from the barrel. They've had strong chemistry since season 1, episode 1. They just didn't realize it until the undercover mission. I completely agree with this reply. You could go back to the first 3 seasons and you'll see the chemistry from the beginning. However, it would have been much more inappropriate if they ever had them act on it during this time. I am glad they waited until Lucy was fully ingrained and respected as an officer first. I wish Tim was right about Doug Stanton. Like Tim said, I wish he was a good person with a jaded view from being a sheriff, because we saw at the start that Doug acted decent. Plus, watching Jackson was rough. Okay, so I'm gonna split my thoughts into 2 halves. The part I agree with, then the part that I disagree with. I agree with the last part with watching Jackson being rough, at least in the 3rd season. I don't think he was written well during this season in lieu of the message it was trying to convey. However, I do not agree with Tim being right about Doug. They needed a character like Doug to prove the point of undeniable racism being in policing. If he was a good person with a jaded view, all of the anti-racism messaging would get watered down and would just appeal to racist people. I am glad they wrote him the way he did, and while I hated him on my screen, that was the point of his character. And Brandon Routh did an amazing job with the role. I'm actually kinda excited about the Prague arc. I mean, obviously I know it's unrealistic, but it's TV and it might be really interesting. I'd be inclined to agree if this wasn't a show about Los Angeles police officers. If this was a plotline in the Rookie Feds, it would have fit way more and would have been a pretty good idea. But wait, now that I say that, I'm wondering if the plotline was initially for Feds, but then got scrapped because of the show being scrapped. Am I onto something here? Hot take. The writers should consider that the show is about LAPD cops. Not SWAT, not FBI, not CIA. A character like Oscar is not for an LAPD officer. There would be an FBI team looking, and don't get me started with Monica. CIA and NSA would have a word with her, and something other. I agree with the Monica standpoint, and you could possibly throw Elijah in there too, despite my newly found openness to him returning. However, I think Oscar is a perfect character for LAPD cops. Serial killers that are smarter than the officers and make their lives hell. Characters like Oscar Hutchinson and Liam Glasser are great villains for the show because it's more realistic. Well, except Oscar in the season 7 finale, but I'm hoping that part dies back down during season 8. But having long-term serial killers and sociopaths versus having massive cartel leaders, I will take the serial killers all day, every day. And without them, the show would be incredibly boring. Lucy is a bad girlfriend for Tim. Manipulative, guilt trips Tim a lot, spreads rumors about him, lies, and is somewhat emotionally abusive. Tim isn't the best, but he is actively trying to fix his problems, while Lucy calls her problems her personality. Okay, so this is going to sound bad, but I half agree. Let me explain first before you go in the comments. So I don't think that Tim should be let off scot-free for what he did. He has things he has to work out, and he wasn't the best partner for Lucy during their relationship, and how he broke her heart has to be understood. However, Lucy isn't a saint either. There's a reply that says my thoughts pretty well here. Lucy can be extremely sanctimonious and condescending. I don't think she's bad for Tim per se, but she's definitely got her own issues to work on. Chris is just Wesley in a different font. He was a pretty good boyfriend, and the hatred towards him is completely uncalled for, mostly because his presence kept Chenford from getting together earlier. I fully and wholeheartedly disagree with this take. Chris is nothing like Wesley. He was not a good boyfriend, and he was not conscious of her feelings and her past with what she went through, especially with the barrel song stuff.
You okay?
But like with Tim and Lucy, I have to also say that Lucy wasn't a saint here either. She was high-key emotionally cheating on him with Tim. She was literally planning a date with Tim while still with Chris. I'm glad that Chris and Lucy aren't together anymore, but to compare this man to Wesley the GOAT is disrespectful. For me to continue down the line, I have to post my own hot takes, which were, I want to see a Seth redemption arc, and I want Bailey to move away, and for Nolan to get with Jennifer. Now, let me explain both of these really quickly. I don't like Seth as a character. I'll actually go as far as to say that I hate his character. However, I think a redemption arc could be pretty good for him. He's actually shown that he wants to work for everyone's respect again, and that he wants to be a good cop. But he's got a long way to go. And if they bring him back, they better show us that journey. Next, we have the one about Bailey moving away. When season 7 ended, I was neutral about Bailey, and I didn't hate her and Nolan together, and didn't completely get bothered by her Mary Sue qualities. However, as I've had to re-watch episodes for these videos, I've begun to really dislike her as a character, and think that Nolan deserves way better. I honestly hope that this move is a deal breaker for Nolan and they break up, and then eventually he gets together with Jennifer. I think they would have much better chemistry, but if they do this, they better not make him jump straight with her. Give him a season's worth of time to be single first. Someone else agreed with these in the replies to this thread, but left their own hot take, and before I show you this one, I need to warn you. I think this is probably the most scorching hot take in this entire video. I agree with both your takes and will add, can Lucy go on a top secret undercover mission in a foreign country and never show up again? I think everyone here, except for maybe 6 to 7 people lurking in the comments, can agree that this is a terrible take. Lucy does not need to go anywhere, and she is a fundamental part of the show. Does she have flaws? Yeah. But there's much worse characters they could get rid of instead. No wonder this one got downvoted to oblivion. Oscar being seen as a massive threat in season 7 didn't make sense. He's self-described as a cockroach and is opportunistic rather than a methodical killer. I completely agree. I like when he just does whatever he can to get what he wants, with the additional kill thrown in there for good measure, because he is a murderer after all. But he does not need to be connected to this whole Monica plotline crap. Don't taint the best villain in the show. Final episode, Nolan loses his shit and just mows down everyone with a machine gun and roll call. This one's obviously a joke, but I thought it was a hilarious comment, so I just wanted to throw it in the video. I like Bailey and I want her to stay. I think it's just me, but I love Balin. Bailey hate is so overrated, and it's so rare to find a Bailey liker. But then on almost every post, there's a Bailey hater. I think hate is a strong word for Bailey, but I understand why people don't like her, and I understand it more as time goes on. As I said earlier, I don't think she should stay. This next guy has a few of them, so let me go through them one by one. Make Nolan a detective. His stint as a training officer has been less than thrilling. His one real student so far has become a better character more in spite of him than because of him. Let's split this into what I agree with and what I disagree with. I agree that Selena became a better character more on her own rather than through her training with Nolan. However, I don't think it was in spite of him. And I definitely don't think Nolan should be a detective if he doesn't want to be. He seems very happy in his role as a training officer, and just because his one shot at it so far hasn't been very stellar, it doesn't mean that he doesn't have what it takes. We'll have to see how things go with him and Miles in Season 8 before we make that conclusion. Pick a social justice lane. I definitely sympathize with a lot of the post-George Floyd ideas that the show talks about, but it's either gone way too heavy-handed about it, a la the final season of Brooklyn 99, or it only crops up when it's convenient. Being sanctimoniously lectured by the fictional cop show does very little to advance those ideas in the real world, to be honest. I do agree with this one though. I think that the message that they were trying to send was good, but it was executed in a not so good way. As the commenter said, it was either too much or too little, and they didn't use it in unsolicited plotlines. If they continue to go down the route of including these themes in the show, they need to appropriately include them. Roll back the insane adventures. The show was better when it felt more grounded, even in spite of the natural ridiculousness. The main characters traipsing off to foreign countries is insane, to be honest. Again, I completely agree. The Prague plotline is probably going to drive me insane if it is longer than a couple of episodes, and they need to slow it down after that. We need to keep it in LA, and we need to keep the centimillionaire cartel leader count at 0 going forward. Jackson shouldn't have been killed off. He should have been given the same silent exit as Bishop, with the chance for him to come back. Nah, I don't agree here. Jackson had the exit he did because the show was likely not happy with Titus Mackin Jr.'s bait and switch during the production of Season 4, where he made all of those promises to the show just to leave anyways. Of course they weren't going to leave that door open for him. Afton left the show before they started writing for Season 2, which gave a respectful amount of time for her to be taken out of the show. Plus, you have to remember the whole Demetrius Gross situation, which is an understandable reason to leave the show. While she never took the chance to come back, she technically still could. On that note, I think I've gone through enough hot takes for one day. If you want a part 2, make sure to leave a like and hype up this video if you're on mobile to show me some love, and subscribe to see more videos like this one. Thanks for watching.